Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to Superhero Sitdown episode 12, where I sit down with someone who loves superheroes and we talk about the things we love, which is superheroes. So, guys, on today's episode, I have a very, very special guest and my biggest guest by far, and his name is Robert Jefferson, also known as Comics Explained. Say what's up, Robert. Tell my audience who you are, what do you do, and where can my people follow your content?
What's going on, guys? This is Rob. I run one of the biggest comic book channels on YouTube. I've been reading comics for 25 years. Made a job out of the thing that I love, really one of the things I love the most. And yeah, I mean, YouTube Comics Explained. And yeah, my job is to teach you about comic books. So I never really know how to market myself on podcasts and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm a guy who does things. And,
So, so guys, Robert basically takes a bunch of comic book series about DC, Marvel, and he basically breaks them down for you. And he's someone that I've watched for a long time, and watching his content is a great alternative if you're not someone who likes to read and likes to watch videos rather than read. Head over to his channel and inform yourself on what's happening in the world of comics of Marvel and DC. So make sure to check his content out. Links will be in the description.
Dude, I like how you explain my channel better than me. Okay, here's a question that I have. What is the deal with that stack of Funko Pops?
Bro,
That
last
is a
weekend,
stack, man. That is nuts.
I know last weekend I hunted down the entire Endgame pop collection, and then
How long did it take you?
I had it stacked up there, so I just included it in the background somewhere in there.
Jeez. So how long did it take to collect the whole thing?
Well, I actually vlogged it, and I did it in one day, and me and my friends, we hunted them all down, and
Wow.
got turned that into a video and got the entire collection.
That's pretty beast, man. That's pretty awesome.
For sure, it was so much fun because they're selling the exclusive Funko Pops at a bunch of different locations. So
Yeah.
to run around my community in a bunch of different locations and hunt down these pops, it was so much fun.
Well, hey, are you gonna do the I feel like this is me interviewing you now. Are you gonna do the AMC thing where they're running all the
Oh,
back to back?
so I'm actually not gonna do that because
What?
I know, dude, I want to do it, but one, in order for me to do that, I would have to miss a couple of days of school because there's so
Uh,
many MCU movies, and
yeah.
then like I would have to miss a couple of days of school, and as it is, I'm missing the Friday that Endgame comes out in order to go watch the movie again, grind out a bunch of videos, and that weekend's just gonna be insane for both of us, content creators
Oh
creating
yeah.
content based on superheroes. So that weekend is gonna be the craziest weekend of our lives. But Rob, every superhero, every villain has their origin story. Just to give not only my audience, but maybe your audience a background of, how you came to be this massive, massive YouTuber and created a lifestyle creating content on superheroes and comics. What is your origin story?
Um, well, about 25 years ago, my dad got me a comic for Batman. And even before that, he and I used to watch X-Men the animated series. And so he
Yes.
got me a comic for Batman and then one comic for Sovereign 7. I don't know if you know what Sovereign 7 is, but that was a line of comics that were created by Chris Claremont when he left Marvel and went over to DC. They kind of sucked and they didn't do well. They threw Power Girl onto the team at one point to try to boost sales and nobody cared. But nonetheless, so after Batman, I found Batman wasn't really for me at the time. I was more interested in the X-Men. So I started reading X-Men and then started reading more Marvel stuff. And so because all my early readings were based on Marvel, that's really where the lion's share of all my knowledge is at. And so fast forward, well, I guess 20 years at this point now. Fast forward 20 years, and I was working a full-time job, and I wanted to become a YouTuber. And so I remember hitting up. I started my Comics Explained channel. Sorry about that, guys. I have a cold. I started the Comics Explained channel, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so I hit up another YouTuber named CNanners, and I tweeted out, and I was like, "Hey, I started a channel. I'm trying to grow. How do I grow my channel?" He said, "Network and make friends." So then I met Comic Story, and I sent him a message because he started his channel around the same time as mine, and then he and I started collaborating after that. And yeah, it just happened to be that on the YouTube scene, when it came to like comic books, with movies being so popular, there wasn't really anybody out there explaining the histories of characters, right? I mean, there were reviews like, hey,
Yeah.
here's like the newest comic about Iron Man, and like here's whether it's good or bad, and that's really all it was. But there wasn't really anybody sitting down and saying like, here's the entire history of Iron Man, and here's all the big points, and here's everything you need to know in order to understand like the movies or the characters in the MCU or anything like that. Nobody was really doing that. Nobody was really doing like dramatic readings of the way the comic historian was. And so because we had essentially like filled a niche, like our channels exploded before we even knew what we had. We were at like
Yeah.
500,000 to like 1 million subscribers, and it was
Yeah.
insane how fast it grew. But yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you and Comic Historian are definitely the two people that have really stood out when it comes to creating content based on superheroes. And it's really, in my opinion, what you guys have done has really revolutionized the comic book industry. Because why would I go out and hunt for a comic book when I could just go to your channel and you can sit down and, break down the entire story, page by page, and really like inform us as your audience about these stories and about these characters that have so much more depth to them and have such a wide, long history. And once you really understand that history, there becomes so much more depth, and you establish so much more of a connection to the characters that you're seeing, in the MCU, and a bunch of storylines that you're seeing happening now within a bunch of different comic storylines.
Yeah,
So
that was the idea. Is when comic book movies first blew up. Like when I remember going down and sitting, watching like Iron Man. Iron Man 1 when that first came out. And I was like, okay, so like an actual Marvel Studios comic book movie, like it'll be better than all the movies we've seen, because if Marvel can't make a good comic book movie, well then we're just never gonna get good comic book movies. And so I remember coming out of Iron Man, and I was like, okay, this is nuts. If this is the future of the MCU, like they're gonna crush
yes.
everybody. Like the world is not prepared for what's about to happen over the next however many years this whole thing goes on. And so it was interesting because I would hear people ask questions like, I wonder what this character's about, or I wonder what that character's about. Who is Obadiah Stane? Who's this guy?
Yeah.
And people talking about when they say like, Ironmonger and so on and so forth. And so it was like, okay, like why not explain that to people? Why not just be like, okay, so like here's a place where you can go to where I can give you the entire history of Iron Man, and kind of teach people what they need to know. Because I think that right now in this day and age, there's a lot of knowledge or a lot of desire to know what's going on in the MCU. You look at Avengers Endgame, and it's like, okay, how's this movie going to end? And it's like, how are all these things going to unfold? And as you go through it, as a comic book reader myself, you kind of notice small things here and there where it's like, okay, so this is probably what they're gonna do, but there's no way to know for sure. But like, it's for a lot of people who never really read comics. I imagine that when they look at the movies, they kind of feel left out, like they're somehow not a part of like this huge world that everybody's a part of, and like they want to be a part of it, And so, I guess my channel provides them that. But yeah,
Yeah, and channels like you and Comic Historian, it comes in really handy because, I discovered your channel back in a couple years ago, because I remember coming out of the first Avengers, and obviously we got that post credit scene with Thanos. At the time, I didn't really know who Thanos was, and I remember going to YouTube and searching who was that purple guy at the end of the Avengers, and from there the MCU has exploded really, and now it's this entire universe. So they're gonna continue to introduce these characters that the general audience might not understand, but they're definitely gonna want to understand who they are, what's the history behind that character.
yeah,
And that's something that channels like you, people like you and Comic Historian, obviously provide that long history of these characters. And coming off of Shazam that just recently came out, we got that end credit scene with that caterpillar that everyone was asking, who is that caterpillar?
yeah,
That was talking at the end of that post credit scene.
yeah,
And now with this whole superhero genre really exploding and becoming such a major part of our culture, your channel is going to continue to explode as more of these new characters are going to continue to be introduced, and then people are going to keep on going back to you and Comic Historian in order to educate themselves on who are these characters.
yeah. Yeah, that's a cool thing because if looking like after Avengers Endgame and looking at like the next phase, right, like Phase 4. I mean, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, I think, are the most anticipated like properties to be released as part of the Marvel
Yeah.
Cinematic Universe. But say that's not the case. And say they say like we're going to do a story about Michael Korvac. Well, people aren't going to know who that guy is. So I'm like, hey, he's a guy who sold the power of Galactus. And it's like, well, what if they do a story about like Moon Knight, like do a Moon Knight film? Well, who's Moon Knight? Well,
Yeah.
he's basically Marvel's Batman. Batman. Like Moon Knight fans will say he's not, but he basically is. And like you have these different characters. They decide they want to do the Sentry or Hyperion or Blue Marvel, and it kind of creates this situation where it's like, here's everything you need to know and all this kind of stuff. But it's also really exciting too. It's also really interesting to see like where they end up going with this whole thing. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing that there is these comic stories that they base their movies off of, but in the end, they make those endings completely out of left field, and it's
Yeah.
nothing that any of us can predict. Going into Infinity War, there were so many theories. Everyone was posting videos about these toy leaks and about what they thought was going to happen, and then we got Infinity War, and the unbelievable happened.
Yeah.
Going
Well,
into Endgame with them keeping their marketing very secretive, and a bunch of people buzzing about how there's a lot of fake footage within the marketing. Going into Endgame, really anything can happen. And
yeah,
now, getting into the main topic of today, which is Endgame, Robert, this is obviously going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. And right now, it's tracking for an $850 million opening weekend.
I believe it.
And obviously, if there's ever a movie that's going to pass Avatar, it's definitely going to be Avengers Endgame. The
Oh yeah.
Fandango recently came out with a report that Endgame has tripled the sales of Star Wars, the opening weekend ticket sales of Star Wars The Force Awakens within its first 6 hours of tickets being available on Fandango. That is just an insane record. And, tickets are selling like this. Robert, when have you ever heard of a movie, having their tickets being sold on eBay for thousands of dollars?
Yeah. No, I've never heard of that, and it doesn't surprise me either. It doesn't surprise me at all because the first like Infinity War ended perfect. Like it ended exactly the way it was supposed to, and it ended exactly how I knew it would end. Right? Like really having read Infinity Gauntlet, like the big moment in that story was Thanos snaps his fingers and blinks out half the life of the universe. And so it was like, okay, that's how Infinity War is going to end. And I think most everybody knew that, right? Like most everybody knew that, like whether it was like the ending scene or like something came after it, like the last thing to happen in the movie is that like Thanos is going to snap his fingers and half the life of the universe is going to vanish. And I think that with that aftermath, with it coming out of that, everybody wants to know what happens next. Everybody
Yeah,
wants to know what's going to happen to Thanos, and is everything going to go back to normal? And if it doesn't, then how are things going to look afterwards? And not only that, people are also going to be like, we want to see like something X-Men related or something
yeah.
Fantastic Four
Please no
related, like
tease.
post credits. Yeah, some kind of tease, something, some bald guy in like a giant mansion's just like scanning the minds of the world. I mean, just something, like people want to see that kind of stuff. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, because you got to remember, like Avengers Endgame is like the most anticipated comic book movie of all time.
Without a doubt.
Of like all time. I mean, like no movie's ever been this anticipated before because it's the end of like this 10-year window. And however this ends, it will set the stage for whatever comes next. So people want to know, does Iron Man die? Does Iron Man live? Does Captain America die? Does Captain America live? Like people want to know all that kind of stuff. And the
Yeah.
movie will have the answers. And so there's so much hype and anticipation built around it. It's kind of insane.
No, it's insane, bro. Like I've never heard of a movie that has sold a ticket on eBay for $15,000.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either. So I guess somebody really, really wanted that ticket. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like an IMAX screening. It was like a regular showing on a Friday afternoon.
Oh,
And Robert, just the hype built around this movie is something we've never seen before across all of, film, cinema, the entertainment industry. We've never seen the level of hype for something as much as this movie.
mhm.
And going if there's ever going to be something that passes Avatar, it's definitely going to be this. But Avengers Endgame definitely does have a lot of competition. They have a 3 hour runtime, which means that less showings. They have Game of Thrones, obviously taking over their Sunday nights, basically, and then
Mm.
they have Detective Pikachu, which is tracking for $100 million opening weekend, and is projected to take out Avengers Endgame within its third week in theaters.
No,
So
that's probably not going to happen. No, here's the thing, man. Detective Pikachu is cool and everything, but
Mhm.
like it's not Avengers Endgame though.
Yeah,
And like Game of Thrones, people can get caught up on that when they're like they're like, well, I can just catch up on that later. I mean, there's only really like 8 episodes in the season anyway, and they're all like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, so it's not like it really matters. But like, no, I think you'll see Avengers Endgame like running for a month before it starts to lose momentum in the theaters. Like it's going to be
damn.
insane because tickets are so hard to come by. It would be different if like if it wasn't just like astronomically sold out everywhere, right? If it wasn't like you couldn't go anywhere and find it, and you have to wait like a week to find a showing anywhere, like it'd be different if that wasn't the case, Like I mean, it was nuts when the tickets went on sale because myself and comic historian we alternate between buying movie tickets for like everybody in the crew and
Yeah.
whatever happens. So, I bought the tickets for Captain Marvel, and then we were invited to see a screening of Shazam. And then, so that means he had to buy the tickets for Endgame.
Mhm.
And so when he bought the tickets for Endgame, he bought the tickets like that. They were on
Yeah.
sale, and like he probably texted me maybe half an hour later. He's like, got tickets for Endgame, and I was like, thank God, man, because like my sister texted me like 2 days later, having not realized the tickets went on sale, and she couldn't find any tickets.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was sold out. I mean, like it's bonkers. But no, because of the fact that the movie's so anticipated, because it's so difficult to get tickets for it, it'll be right in the movie theaters for, I mean, for the first month, it'll crush everything at the
Without a
theaters.
doubt.
Yeah, I think Detective Pikachu will probably, that'll be the next movie to really take over after Endgame. It'll be the next one to crush the box office, but
Mhm.
I don't think anything's coming close to, or at least I don't think anything's going to topple Endgame and the box office sales for the first month the movie's in theaters. I think it's going to dominate everything. So
I
yeah,
mean, that's definitely a believable statement
yeah,
because obviously nothing has ever had the hype that this movie has.
mhm.
And Rob, when the day that tickets went on sale, first of all, shout out to the intern that put up these tickets before they released that little special look. Because Rob, I was refreshing Fandango and I ended up copying tickets for 5 showings and for a bunch of different people who texted me because when they logged into Fandango to cop tickets, there was an hour wait time in order to get to the screen with the tickets and to purchase the seats or whatever. So I ended up copying so many tickets, and
Well,
this was all before the special look came out. That obviously was a major, major piece of footage that we got, and was definitely the hype reel that
yeah,
really, blew up around the world. We
yeah,
saw so much in that one special look, 61 seconds, craziest 61 seconds of my life. And going into Endgame, there's obviously going to be a ton of fake footage within the marketing campaign. But Rob, what do you think is the craziest thing that can possibly happen in Endgame? Now, when I say craziest, I mean craziest but realistic. We're not going to see an entire newly casted X-Men
no,
walk
no.
out of one of Doctor Strange's portals. For
Um,
me, the craziest thing that can happen is Captain America wielding Thor's hammer. That's something that I really want to see happen because Captain America is my favorite MCU character.
yeah.
But for me, that's the craziest thing that I can think of happening.
What's the craziest thing I could imagine happening during Endgame? I say a cameo with Galactus and the Silver Surfer. That like that all that's gonna happen is that like they're going to be like we don't like where's like it's going to be something involving the fact that Galactus can't find like they're like half the population's gone or whatever it is, something along those lines, but it's like Galactus is hungry because of it, like, well, we found
Yes.
the source of all this and it's back on Earth, and then and then I don't know, but that would be like a cool post-credit scene or something like that. But again, like that's probably one of the craziest things I can imagine. I don't imagine it happening that way. But okay, so a post-credit scene for the Fantastic Four. So a buddy of mine, Rod, or not Raj, a buddy of mine, Sal, had this really cool idea, Sal over at Comic Pop. And he was talking about doing a post-credit scene where it introduces the Fantastic Four. And what he said was that like you have this scene where it's just like this guy typing on a computer, right? And the camera just starts to like zoom out. So like the camera's behind him, and all you see is his back, and he's just briskly working on this computer,
Yeah.
and he's just typing and typing and typing, whatever, and it looks like he's just typing his butt off. And the camera starts to pan out, right? So like the room seems to get bigger and bigger, and this table
Hmm.
keeps going getting bigger and bigger, and then his arm just like stretches, grabs something, and then brings it back, and then it cuts to black, and it's just like,
Oh my.
yeah, it was the coolest idea for a post credit scene that I've ever heard. But yeah, I mean, but in terms of like actually happening in the movie itself, the craziest thing I could imagine happening would be Captain America dying. You know, Captain America actually legitimately dying, being killed off. I think most people suspect that one of the leading members of the MCU will die, right? Because at
Yeah.
this point, it's really kind of like, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, who are kind of like the 1-2 punch of the MCU, right? I mean,
Yes. The
they're
face.
yeah, the face of the whole thing. And so people are kind of like, okay, one of those guys is going to have to die. And I think that Iron Man dying would be kind of a big deal, but I think that Captain America dying would be even bigger because people are just like, but it's Captain America though. Like, who's going to take over Captain America? And I think I think that would really hit people a lot more in the feels
For
if
sure.
Captain America dies than if Iron Man died. I think Iron Man will live. Will end up living throughout the whole thing. But I don't know. I mean, aside from that, I think most anything that we kind of expect to see is sort of anticipated. This giant, great big, huge fight with Thanos,
Yeah.
that kind of cool stuff. I still stick by my idea that they go back to Thanos. Like the movie picks up with him going to Thanos' homeworld, only to find out, when they basically kill him and then try to undo the snap, only to find out like they can't, like they cannot undo the snap, like it's just stuck that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the bonkers thing, but I mean, crazy but possible. Uh yeah, bud. Yeah, no. Yeah, probably the death of Captain America. Him just being gone, completely out of the picture.
Yeah, going into Endgame, he's definitely one of the most likely speculated characters to bite it in this film.
Yeah,
It's basically between him, Iron Man, and Thor, basically the trinity of the MCU, because all of their contracts end with this movie.
yeah,
And I think that's why it was so crazy when we saw just the trinity walking towards Thanos
mhm,
in that special look.
yeah.
And with this movie possibly looking to kill off one of those members of the Trinity, Rob, do you think that there's any way that this movie ends on a high note? Because I'm telling you right now, if we lose Captain America, who is the emotional heart, the heart of the audience, all of
Yeah.
us are, he's the heart of the MCU. And if we lose Captain America, I don't see there being any way for this movie to end off on a high note, such as the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, and yeah, do you think that there's any way that this movie can end off on a high note with all of these characters departing the MCU within this film?
I mean, okay, if we're talking about a high note, as in like, and they all live happily ever after, no. I think it'll be a high note insofar as like the day was won, but there were some losses and there were some casualties. If
Yeah,
Captain America dies, I could see them offering. I could see Tony Stark. I could see them doing what they did during the death of Captain America in Marvel Comics, right? Because you had Civil War, and then Civil War ended. Then you had the Initiative event, and then like Initiative ended, and then you had the death of Captain America. And following Steve Rogers' death, Iron Man offered the mantle to Bucky Barnes, and Bucky Barnes ended up taking it up. And then, of course, he was Captain America for a while until Steve Rogers came back, which was kind of stupid. And then, or at least the way they did it was kind of stupid. And
hmm
then, of course, later on, when he lost the Super Soldier Serum during Rick Remender's run, that the Captain America mantle went to, or not James Rhodes, went to Sam Wilson. And
yeah,
so, what I could see them doing is if only as a tip of the nod to, or a tip of the hat to, the Eric. I'm sorry, Ed Brubaker run. I can see them coming along and saying, okay, Captain America dies. They offer the mantle to Bucky Barnes, who turns it down because he's like, I can't live up to the legacy of Cap. And then they offer it to, to Sam Wilson, and Sam Wilson takes it up and says, like, somebody's got to be the next Captain America. It'll be me. And I think that'll sort of move things in a more hopeful direction. Like, okay, there's more after this, right? Like, it's not the end of all things. Like life goes on. And I think that it'll kind of continue that theme, sort of keep that theme going.
yeah,
Um, but in terms of like a happy ending, a traditional Disney happy ending, and they all live happily ever after, and the
yeah,
prince runs away with the princess, and they live in a castle in a far off land. No, that's not going to happen. I think this will be pretty. I think it'll be. People will feel it. I think when the movie ends, people will feel the last 10 years, and I think that regardless of who dies, I don't think it'll be all of them. I think that Thor will come back, and I think he'll rebuild Asgard. But I think that in terms of whoever it is that we end up losing, people will feel it, and they'll and they'll kind of go forward like, okay, in the future movies it'll feel like something is missing. Now, whether that's good or bad is anybody's guess, because it could be that if Captain America dies, that it's just not the same. People go watch the rest of the movies and it changes how they see them, and it doesn't change it in a good way, which could be terrible situation. So
Yeah,
it really kind of depends.
yeah, and that's the thing, with most of these characters that we've grown to love and basically been with since the start of the MCU, with them departing in this film, I don't think there's I don't it's that I don't know if there's any way that the MCU could really be get any bigger than Endgame, Like going
Oh,
forward within the MCU.
oh, it could. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we know the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are coming,
No, not
but
even that. Not even that, man. Like, okay, here's the thing. Okay, this is comic book time. Here's the thing, man. Like, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of what Marvel could do, Avengers Endgame is nothing. Thanos snapped his fingers and blinked out half the life of the universe. So, like, I mean, like there are
yeah,
stories like Annihilation, where like the universe's population almost gets pushed to the brink of like total elimination, like where almost everybody dies. There's Maximum Security, where Earth gets turned into a prison planet, and Ronan the Accuser is the warden. There's Operation Galactic Storm. There is the Trial of Reed Richards, which is a really cool story. There's the Thanos Imperative. There's Annihilation Conquest. There is, I mean, there's the entire run of Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers. There's Secret Wars from 1984 and the Secret Wars 2. I mean, there's a ton of stories they could do.
no,
Avengers versus X-Men is a good one. I
yeah,
mean, like there are future events in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that could be astronomically darker than Avengers Endgame. Um, and I kind of hope that we actually end up seeing some of them. I would love to see Secret Wars. That'd be cool. Everyone's
yeah,
favorite villains and everyone's favorite
and
heroes.
the Russo brothers have teased it a bit.
Yes, they have. Yeah, they have. They've teased that they wanted to do. They were like, we want to do that movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of things that could come out of in the future of the movies. But no, Avengers Endgame is nowhere near as dark as it can get. Not by a mile. I mean, it is dark, but
yeah.
like it can get a whole lot darker. Like if they
I
had done
mean,
Civil War proper, Civil War would have been a lot darker than Endgame actually. But
yeah, I understand what you're saying when it comes to like the events, but what I'm trying to say is that from the beginning of the MCU, we've grown to love Iron
mm,
Man, Cap, Thor, and going forward without them in the MCU, I don't think we're gonna have the same deep emotional connection with characters like Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Black Panther. Like the emotional connection behind these characters, I don't think it's gonna be the same as Avengers Endgame, where it's built up across 10 years, and these were the characters that started it all. Do you understand me?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's only because they haven't been around long enough. I mean, Iron Man's been around since 2007, 2008,
yeah,
in the MCU since the first movie came out, and so like we've had 10 years to grow attached to the Tony Stark character. The fact that he's just kind of like he's a jerk, but he's a lovable jerk. Like I mean, like we've grown to like love that version of his character. The fact that like yeah, Tony Stark's kind of a dick, but like he's got it where it counts though, and like you want him on your side. Like like we've kind of gotten to that point, but Captain Marvel's been around for less than a year. Black Panther's been around for less than 2 years.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of those characters, like we just haven't grown attached to them yet because they haven't been around long enough, and so much emphasis has been put on the events of Endgame and who's going to live and who's not. That at the end of Endgame, once that movie's finished and we go into the next phase, that'll be a chance for them to like start building that attachment between us and Captain Marvel and us and Black Panther and all that kind of cool stuff. You know,
yeah.
as a chance to sort of build all that up and give us a chance to like grow close to those characters or in terms of how much we like them. Will we ever see them in the same way as like the Chris Evanses and the Chris Hemsworths and the Robert Downey Jr.'s and all those guys who like pioneered the MCU? No. I mean, we'll never see them that way. But it doesn't mean that we can't like that we'll never care about them. Right? It doesn't mean that like we'll never give a damn about any of those characters, Not at
Mhm.
all. I mean, we'll continue to like them, and or at least some will, and we'll kind of pick and choose who it is that we grow close to. I mean, you look at a character like Moon Knight. Moon Knight's a character that a lot of people
Yes.
actually
Oh
find really,
my
really
God.
cool.
I
Yeah,
cannot wait for Moon Knight.
yeah, because Moon Knight is an answer to the question, what if Batman had schizophrenia? And like that's Moon Knight. Like and that's what's so cool about him is this it's like, he's a crazy guy, basically.
Yes.
And with that being the case, like he could really become a lot more interesting. But like, look at Spider-Man, right? Like, I mean, you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He's not been around for the entirety of the MCU. Civil War was his first appearance. Then he got his own movie. People love him nonetheless. So I mean, it takes time to kind of build up that interest and that connection and so on and so forth. And it also depends on what they do. While Tom Holland had not been around for Spider-Man that long, like everybody almost unanimously agreed, the saddest scene from Infinity War is when Spider-Man died. Like
Yeah.
when he dusted. And so it's kind of like, okay, so like he had this great moment where he died and it was really, really sad. And like we love him now. I mean, that's that's kind of the thing. That's kind of how fans and the general audience works. I mean, it's Spider-Man. People would have always loved him, but no, I mean, it just takes time to kind of build up that connection between the characters and the audience. So
Yeah, and because it takes time, that's why I felt like the deaths in Avengers Infinity War weren't as heartfelt as they should have been. Once we saw Black Panther get dusted, we knew, they're coming back. They're coming back. And
yeah,
going into Endgame, we know these characters are gonna come back, but there's been a lot of speculation as to when they're gonna come back within this film. Are they gonna come back after the dust has been settled? You know, someone has died already, they've defeated Thanos, or are they gonna come back? Everyone's gonna assemble, and then they're gonna take on Thanos with Thanos having an entire army, or with the odds being evened on both sides. And so going into Endgame, what role do you want to see the dusted characters play? Do you want them to come into action after the dust has been settled, or do you want to see them, revived before the final fight against Thanos?
honestly, man, like I don't even think I think their whole death. I think their deaths will be undone. Like in time travel or whatever, something will happen where it'll like the movie will basically end as if Infinity War never happened in the first place, right? Like the second movie
Yeah,
will do the first. And so like it'll be like they never actually died. In reality, I'd rather they just stay dusted for the whole movie. I mean, what I don't want, because here's the issue. What I don't want to see is like by some miraculous means, Black Panther and all these characters start coming back and then like save the day. Because I think what makes Endgame so cool and what makes it so intriguing to me is it's like how could they possibly win? Like how could what's
yeah,
left of the superhero community, this skeleton crew ragtag group, how could they possibly win against like hopeless odds? Like I mean, because what is it? You got Scott Lang, you got Nebula, you've got Rocket Raccoon, you've got Iron Man, you've got Captain America, you've got Thor, the Incredible Hulk, Captain Marvel, and what else? Like that's pretty much it. Like there's really
yeah,
nothing else. And like with that small ragtag group, it's like how could they possibly defeat a guy? And even if they manage to defeat Thanos, how can they undo this snap that wiped out half the universe's population? Like it's the what if. And I feel like if they were to like create their own Infinity Gauntlet or something like that, and then like undo it all, then it's just kind of like, well, what a waste though, because you had
yeah,
this really good opportunity to kind of throw together like this mishmash Avengers team, which is essentially Captain America's Secret Avengers more or less. But you have like this mishmash Avengers team, and then like somehow they have to find a way to like fix everything, and if they could pull it off on their own, then it creates all kinds of possibilities because then people are going to start asking the question,
yes.
well, what else can that Avengers team do besides this? And it would create a lot of possibilities, but at the end of the day, with a 3 hour runtime, that gives us enough of an opportunity to basically say like they can't beat Thanos or they can kill Thanos, but they can't undo the snap. So here's what they have to do in order to basically save the day, and then here's what happens at the end. There's a lot of time there. You can make a lot of movie in 3 hours. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. Like I'm really excited, but no, I'd rather to your question and point, the characters who were dusted, I'd rather see them just stay dusted, until the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you because at the end of the day, this is a film about the OG Avengers
Mhm.
and their comeback, them reassembling really because they haven't been assembled since Age of Ultron really. All of the after Civil War, everything has been shattered. In Infinity War, they were all divided, and this film is really about the OGs coming back together and then taking on Thanos for one final battle.
Yeah,
But I think something that really threw all of our theories out the window is once they dropped that Far From Home trailer.
yeah,
Robert, I'm sorry, but if half of the universe disappears, it's not gonna look like that that Far From Home trailer. I don't
yeah.
care if you give the world a year, a couple years. It's not gonna recuperate from something like that, as
Yeah,
we saw in the Far From Home trailer. So I think they're gonna do something where such as you just suggested, the snap never happened. The events of Infinity War never happened. It's gonna be like an alternate timeline or something like that.
yeah,
Because that Far From Home trailer literally threw all of our theories out the window.
yeah. No, that was the cool thing, but kind of the disappointing thing is that it's almost like they kind of spoiled the movie. But now, granted, it is a trailer, right? And like,
Yeah,
how many trailers did we see with Civil War before we finally saw Spider-Man? So like, so just because like it's the first trailer they're not going to reveal everything, right? I mean, I would expect if the snap continued on and like the movie ended with them having no way to undo it, then like that'd be mentioned in the trailer, like the world's still reeling from the aftermath of half the population vanishing or whatever, and then like
Yeah.
some news clip or something like that gets thrown into the theater, and then you see Spider-Man doing his thing or whatever, or Nick Fury would have mentioned it or something along those lines. Like you would expect a reference to it even in the trailer, if for no other reason to say like, hey, like here's how, not to spoil everything, but here's kind of like what goes on. I mean, at the same time though, like it is only a trailer, and there's no way to really know how everything turned out until, of course, Avengers Endgame. So, I don't know. I mean, the fact that the world seems so populated and
Yeah.
nobody paid any attention to, or nobody really seems to indicate or seems to really say anything about what's going on, and the fact that Nick Fury is alive all seems to point to the notion that like it all basically gets undone, right? Like it gets corrected. Because it'd be different if it wasn't Nick Fury, right? If it was only
Yeah.
Happy Hogan, then I would be like, okay, so either Nick Fury's still underground or that dude is still dusted. So like, one of two things is going on. But the fact that Nick Fury's there really kind of seems to spoil the ending of Endgame. So my one thing I think would be cool though is if it turns out the entire event of Far From Home takes place inside the Soul Stone. That'd be cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even take that into account. That would be cool.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it'd be pretty beast. But no, Avengers Endgame will it'll conclude. It'll wrap everything up for the most part. So
Yeah, for sure. And they've described this as a definite, indefinite conclusion to the entire Infinity Saga, everything that they've been building towards. And that's why I kind of feel like this film isn't gonna have an end credit scene because I don't know, I kind of feel like it won't feel like a conclusion if they have Galactus in the end credit scene or the next major villain within the end credit scene. So I personally think that there's a high possibility that there won't be an end credit scene. But me personally, I want to see something teasing the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. Us as fans, we want to see that too. So hopefully they just something similar to the Iron Man 2 post-credit scene where we didn't even see Thor, we just saw his hammer. And that
yeah,
hammer indicated that he was coming. And
yeah,
my personal end credit scene, perfect end credit scene for Endgame that would still that would still make Avengers Endgame feel like a conclusion is we get a shot of the Avengers Tower under construction, and then the A basically gets, it goes down, and then a 4 goes up, indicating that the Fantastic Four have purchased the Avengers Tower, which we know has been purchased by an anonymous buyer
yeah,
from Spider-Man Far From Home. And for me, that's a perfect end credit scene because it's, again, similar to the end credit scene from Iron Man 2, where we saw Thor's hammer, and we didn't even see Thor. We just knew he was coming. Here, we see the Fantastic Four logo, and we don't have to see John Krasinski and Emily Blunt walk out in, Fantastic Four costumes.
yeah,
We just know that the Fantastic Four are coming to the MCU.
yeah, yeah. That works. Yeah, I like it.
So another major character going into Endgame that they haven't shown anything of within the marketing is the Hulk. Rob, the Hulk has had this arc starting from Thor Ragnarok, really, where him and Bruce Banner have been at war with each other. And in this film, it looks like they're gonna merge together and we're gonna be getting Professor Hulk.
Professor Hulk.
And I personally think that we're gonna get Worldbreaker in this movie because after everything that's happened, now Hulk is going to unite, and we're going to see the most powerful version of the Hulk because they haven't shown him at all, and not even in the posters, Rob. And like Hulk is literally the mascot for the Avengers, and the fact that they haven't shown them in any footage and not even the posters leads me to believe that he's going to have a major role in Endgame, and his entrance is going to be massive.
Yeah. Damn, I don't know, man. I mean, here's the thing. If they introduce Worldbreaker Hulk, and he's anything like the comic book version, he'll crush Thanos in like 2 hits. He'll just be like boom, boom, and like that'll be the end of that. Like Thanos will be donezo. So I don't know. I would like to see them save Worldbreaker Hulk for the future, for like a future storyline, because
I can see that if they continue with the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could make a whole phase out of like World War Hulk. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a whole thing out of that.
And that's one of my personal favorite comic, storylines where Hulk comes back with his gladiators. Oh
yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of the coolest things.
Throw Sentry in there. Oh.
Yeah, like break Colossus' arms. Like I mean, there's all kinds of cool things that they could do with the actual with Worldbreaker Hulk proper. Um, no, I think Professor Hulk is about where it'll cap out, which is a pretty like Professor Hulk was the strongest version of the Incredible Hulk until Worldbreaker Hulk and probably
Yeah,
Mike. But like until those two versions, he was the strongest version of the Hulk. And I would say that having that version of Hulk in the MCU, like all the Incredible Hulk's infinite strength with the mind of Bruce Banner, oh, it would be nuts because the Incredible Hulk is just like brute fighting is all he doesn't really think that much. But when you've got Bruce Banner behind the wheel and he's thinking, and
yeah.
on a much higher level than the Incredible Hulk does, a fight with Thanos would be insane, and it'd be a sight to behold. But yeah, no, I mean, I think Worldbreaker would be cool, but I think they're gonna hold him for a future movie. I mean, imagine that, man, like Avengers, World War Hulk. Like, come on, man. Like, tell me that wouldn't
What I would do
make
for that?
$1 billion.
What I would do for that?
Yeah, it make countless sums of money in the box office.
No, a couple years back, I actually speculated that before Age of Ultron was announced, and then we got that Thanos end credit scene after the first Avengers. I thought that they were gonna do Thanos in Avengers 2, and then Avengers 3. What's bigger than Thanos for the time being? I thought they were gonna go straight into World Breaker Hulk,
Yeah,
and Hulk as the main villain of Avengers 3 after Thanos, and everything with Thanos built up, the stuff with Thanos has been resolved, and now Hulk, went ham in that movie against Thanos, and now the Avengers have to assemble in order to take down the Hulk himself. That would just be such an amazing storyline, and I thought that was what they were originally gonna do. I thought that's what they were originally gonna do, but obviously they did Age of Ultron, and now we're getting two more Avengers movies with Thanos being the main villain.
yeah. So I don't know. It'll be cool either way, no matter how it unfolds. Seeing the because I'm kind of hoping we get like a team up between like because I would want to see like Thor, Thanos, the Incredible Hulk, and Captain Marvel, right? Like see like Thor and Hulk and Captain Marvel teaming up on Thanos
The
and see
three
Thanos
heaviest.
wreck them all like by himself, like or something like that, or But that's I mean we're gonna get we're gonna get like a like a rematch basically between Hulk
Yeah,
and Thanos. Having Thor in the mix will be interesting because he's still
for
got
sure.
basically like the Thor Force, the Thor replacement for the Odin Force. And then of course Captain Marvel brings a whole nother level to the equation in
It's
terms of the power.
insane, bro.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm curious. I'm God. The more we talk about this, the more excited I get, man. I am.
Me too.
Uh,
And the thing is that from the marketing campaign, we know nothing, bro. We know nothing,
yeah,
and we haven't seen anything.
yeah. I mean, we've seen what they have in the trailers, but like that's basically what we already knew to begin with. That like, 'cause
Yeah.
all the trailers say is like, "Hey guys, so like they're gonna try to save the day," and like that's it. Like that's all the trailers really give us.
For real. And the
Yeah,
thing is that they show little glimpses of shots of them fighting, but there's no context behind anything. So we literally don't know anything that's gonna happen. And with a 3 hour movie and them revealing only 8 minutes of footage out of their entire marketing campaign, within a 3 hour movie, there's literally an entire different storyline that they could take, and we wouldn't know anything about it.
yeah, yeah. That's what's so crazy is because I mean, yeah, because what we see in the trailers amounts to like total between the trailers, the special looks, the TV spots, the teasers, and so on and so on. It all probably amounts to maybe 10 minutes of footage, if that.
Yeah.
And as we've seen in previous movies, like we like during Captain America: The Winter or Captain America: Civil War, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. Like between all these different movies, which something else that also kind of interested me too, and I'll talk about that in a second. Um, we've seen like all those trailers are composed of like 30 seconds here, 10 seconds there, like 5 seconds there. And it's just so there's no way to really know. I mean, for all we know, it can all take place within the first like 15 minutes of the film,
Yeah.
and everything else is just fog. We have no clue what's coming next. But one of the things that I was actually thinking about recently is that all the characters only ever get 3 movies, if you notice that. Right? Like Thor got 3 movies, Captain America got 3 movies,
Yeah.
Iron Man got 3 movies. Yeah, so they only ever get 3 movies. And I wouldn't be surprised if the direction that the MCU takes is every character that we decide to make a movie on only ever gets 3 movies, and like either they get killed or they retire, they basically get removed from the landscape, and somebody steps in and takes their place in order to maintain like a rotating roster
Yeah.
of characters. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they end up going with, if that's the philosophy they have, which is actually pretty smart. Because then one, you don't overexpose the characters, and then two, people feel like they get their money's worth with that character, so to speak, in terms of like screen time and getting used to them and so on.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it's who knows, man. Nobody ever knows. Yeah.
And Rob, another thing too is that Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers have both stated, even though we can't really trust them because they also stated a while back that no one has guessed the title for Endgame, and all of us were screaming Endgame.
Yeah.
So we can't really trust what they say, but they have said that all of the footage that they've shown takes place within the first 15 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Do you think that everything we've seen so far takes place within the first 15 minutes?
No, that's why I say like we don't know when it takes place. I mean, they say a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's almost kind of a cat and mouse game. It's almost kind of a game between the viewer and like the folks making the movies. It's just like, okay, so like here's this thing, and like here's when these things happen, and then it turns out it actually doesn't. And then it's like, well, we were just kind of messing with you. We just wanted to see if you guys could figure it out. And like that's literally all it ever turns into. And it's fun. It's fun to kind of be a part of that thing. But no, that's why I say, I mean, it may all take place in the first 15 minutes, but I wouldn't set store by what the Russo brothers and Feige say, because their job is to get us to go see the movie, not spoil it. So
Yeah. So, Rob, that concludes today's episode of Superhero Sitdown.
okay.
Thank you for coming on the show. Do you have any final thoughts before we end today's episode?
Avengers Endgame is going to be amazing. It's going to be a roller coaster ride of emotions, man. Like we're going to be laughing, we're going to be like
Yes.
crying, like we're hopefully we don't walk out of the movie just feeling like, man, the world sucks and nothing good ever happens to anybody. It doesn't end that way.
Bro, like after Endgame, I don't know what I'm gonna look forward to. Like,
Oh, I am. I'm looking forward. Oh, dude, are you going to D23 this year?
yes, I am.
Dude, I'll be there this year.
No way. Yo, we should
Yeah,
link
me and my
up.
girlfriend are going this year. Yeah, dude, August. Yeah, I'll be there, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah, we should hook up or like meet up or something. But yeah, no, like I'm because that's what. So okay, that's supposedly where they're supposed to make all the announcements.
Yeah, for the future slate of
Yeah,
the upcoming MCU movies. And then
yeah,
we also got that another episode 9 trailer coming at D23.
yeah,
So,
man. I haven't seen the first one yet, so don't spoil it. I need to watch it. Is it called the Fall of, or the Rise of Skywalker? Is that what they're calling it?
yes, the
Okay.
Rise of Skywalker. And bro, I'm just gonna tell you, no
No,
spoilers.
don't tell me anything. Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me anything.
Most insane Star Wars trailer I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, that works. That works. But
But
yeah, I'm excited. Like I'm pretty hyped to see it.
yes, D23 is gonna be insane. But just because Disney is they're really transitioning over from Comic Con to D23 because they want to make D23 as big as Comic Con.
Well, it
So
makes sense. I mean, it's
yeah,
their personal event that we get every 2 years. Like it makes sense.
yes. So guys, that concludes today's episode of Superhero Sit Down. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Guys, make sure to check out Robert's content. Links in the description. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys next time.
Later.